Hi guys, we're here in the desert on an international launch of a brand new Audi. It is an SUV, it's 5-seater, it's got luggage space. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Size-wise, it kind of fits between a Q5 and a Q7, but it is not a Q6 because those cars have petrol engines, and this car, well, let me show you under the bonnet. If I open up the bonnet, there's no engine. Instead, you get a box, and inside the box, you get a load of cables because this is obviously the new Audi E-Tron, and it is the first full-size electric vehicle on sale here in the UAE. Will be on sale actually third quarter of next year. There's an electric motor under here, and there's an electric motor in the back as well. So this is E-Quattro. It's got, normally it's rear wheel drive, but when you need the traction like you would do on this surface, the front also kicks in and you get off-roading ability, which we've actually taken it off-road, but more on that in a minute. What I will tell you is that you get about 300 kilowatts, which is a combined equivalent total of 400 brake horsepower and 490 pounds-foot of torque. That's good for 0 to 100 in 5.7 seconds. And in fact, you can get 6.6 seconds normally, 5.7 is with boost, and over 200 kilometers per hour. And we can confirm that. It's got a very low center of gravity because the battery pack is underneath it. And there's a cooling system bolted onto it to keep it nice and cool. And at the same time, it's got 50-50 front and rear weight distribution, so the handling is pretty dynamic as well. Now, you're worrying about charging and all that sort of stuff. Well, you get an over 400 kilometer range on this car when it's fully charged. And through Regen, you can actually recoup about 30% of that if you're driving it carefully, as we've partly been doing and partly not been doing. In terms of recharging, it's 8 hours overnight, or if you find one of those high-speed 150 kilowatt chargers, you can actually get 80% charge in just 30 minutes. So it's extremely practical. In fact, how practical is it actually? Well, I'll tell you what, let's have a look at that, and we'll start, as usual, by checking out the boot. So let's check out the boot over here. There is of course a button under here to open the boot. It is powered, and actually it's a very big boot, 600 liters of space, and you have split folding seats. Drop those seats and you have well over 1,725 liters of space. There's also a little bit of room under here, quite a bit actually, quite a deep storage bin under there. You're wondering where are the batteries? Well, the batteries, like I said, they're in the floor underneath. By the way, there's an 8-year guarantee for those batteries. There are 36 cells, and those can be swapped out individually should you actually have a problem. But again, like I said, it's under warranty, so not to worry. Now, is there any compromise in rear space? Well, let's just sit in the back quickly and check that out. So I have been driving this very car, so this seat is set for me, and as you can see, I've got tons of room. Now, interesting thing here, there's no central tunnel, of course, because there's a separate drive motor in the back and in the front, so you don't need a central prop shaft. What you do get is full air conditioning controls, 2 vents, 2 USBs, and a power supply. You also get Isofix child seat anchor points, of course, and a cubby box here. Well, it's a bit of a tray really, and also some cup holders. It's quite comfortable, very spacious in here, even for me. Plenty of headroom, leg room, wiggle room for my feet. Very good. Time to get in the front. So the interesting thing about this e-car, full electric car as compared to other cars, is how much like a normal car it is really. And let me just start it up for you. When I say start it up, you're not going to hear the sound of an engine because it is full electric, of course, but you've got that virtual cockpit, very familiar to Audi owners, and you've got the new 2-screen layout, which people driving the new A8 will know. In the A6, I think the A7 also has this now. Down here you've got a lot of spaces and things to put stuff, including a cubby box there with handily a little cloth to wipe these screens because they do get dusty here. The most interesting thing to mention here, I mean, it's a very nice interior, it's all straightforward, seat adjustments, all as you would expect, so nothing really to talk about apart from the fact that this gear lever is very interesting the way they've done this, because I've got my foot on the brake, and the way to go into drive is actually to push that back, and then you go neutral, reverse, and the park is there. So it's actually under here, there's a little bit of a gap just underneath there. So really it is they've tried to keep it as normal as possible, so there's no surprises in here. So for a lot of people that feel a little bit anxious about how an electric car drives and what are the controls inside, there are no surprises here. It's all very straightforward, and you have the whole Audi Select, Audi Drive Mode Select, that's all in here as well. So it's all very, very familiar to Audi owners. So talking of driving, I think the next thing we need to do is take it for a drive. Okay guys, let's just take it for a quick drive and just to give you a short impression of the car. Now I actually have been driving this car around pretty much all day today. We've driven it on motorways, we've driven it up twisty mountain roads, and we've even driven it off-road as well. And one of the things that I found about the car is that it drives like a normal car. I mean, I think they put a lot of effort into not only the fact that it looks like a normal car, but in the fact that it drives like a normal car. And one of the interesting things that I found is that although it has regen braking, you've got two modes, so you can have more stronger and lesser, and obviously the stronger one recoups the most amount of energy. 30%, in fact, dropping from 100 kilometers per hour, you can recoup up to 70% of the energy by using the regen braking. But what it doesn't do is that one pedal thing that electric cars often do. It doesn't do that one pedal drive where you can just use the accelerator pedal to go and to stop as well. It drives like a normal car, handles really well. It's 2.5 tons, it's 2,500 kilograms. 700 kilograms of that is actually the battery pack. So that's a fair bit right there. Now, what that means, of course, is that there's a lot of momentum, and the brakes do that thing where not only because of the mass of the car, but because of the regen systems where they're quite linear up to a point, and then in that final bit, you have to sort of go a little bit harder to really get it to stop. The steering doesn't have much feel, but it is very accurate and actually quite well weighted, particularly in dynamic mode. Don't forget, it's got the same modes that most Audis do have. And it handles really well. I mean, obviously understeers, like on Jebel Hafit, we were driving up that road and there was quite a bit of understeer, but the grip was always there. And you can actually, interestingly, manage it on the throttle, so you can get it to turn around a little bit tighter just on lifting the throttle and on using the accelerator pedal as well. I can't say, I almost said gas pedal, but it's obviously not a gas pedal, is it? Overall though, and the other thing I should mention, of course, is these mirrors, because on this car it has they're optional virtual mirrors, and basically what they have is they have cameras instead of actual glass, and it is shown up on here, and which you can adjust by simply pressing them and then adjusting them that way. Now, honestly speaking, I found them a little bit difficult to use because they're slightly disorientating in terms of where I am relative to the car next to me or the car behind me, but also in terms of depth perception. It's quite hard to tell because obviously when you're looking at a mirror, you've got some idea of 3D, distances, depth, you can see how far the car might be. I find it a little more difficult on there. So my choice would be to actually stick with the regular mirrors, but these are better. The car has a coefficient of drag. They've done a lot about the drag actually, including that front grille, which is mostly closed apart from the open slats, which can actually close as well. But they've got the drag down to 0.27, which on an SUV is extraordinary. And 0.27 is partly because of the mirrors, and they can add about 35 kilometers to your overall range just because of that aerodynamic improvement. So if that's important to you, go for this. But by putting the normal mirrors on, the drag coefficient is still a very good 0.28. So that's probably what I would go for. So the ride quality is very good, and the refinement is amazing, and this is where Audi, with its first full-size electric car, will beat some other cars, shall we say, simply because of the ride refinement quality. It's so quiet, it's so smooth, it's so well built in here that you just know that this is an absolute solid proposition. So like I said, the car will be on sale end of next year. Price is yet to be revealed. I reckon around the 300 mark if we're looking at European prices. So there you go. There's our first drive review on this international launch right here in Abu Dhabi of the e-Tron. And do let us know what you think of the car and the video, or ask me, whatever, anything else you like. And do check us out on motoringme.com. All the social media, that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to give me a follow as well on my Instagram. I would love to see you there. Thanks so much for watching. Until the next one, listen to this talk. Whoa! The performance is incredible.